Welcome back to the Cynical Centrist podcast, episode number 18 for September 15th, 2019. And this is part 2 of the third Democratic debate review with Jonathan Munitz of the Hill of Roses. Cue the music. You're probably wondering what's going to make me laugh out of Alabama. Well, pretty much everything. But us? No, we don't have to follow those rules. We're the good guys. Could be worse than being a human Cheeto. You could be a clown that does porn. And whenever they say the word realistic, take a drink, you would probably be dead by the end of the night.
If he's not pissing you off, he's not doing his job. This is the Cynical Centrist podcast.
So then that kind of comes with this 2v1 thing. And I think I have to change my ranking from last night. It's going to disappoint probably some of the people viewing. I think Yang come in second. Like I think had clearly the best opener. Like I was very, very nervous going into that. Like I thought, oh, this is going to come off terribly. Everyone's just going to say the you're buying votes. It's going to actually get brought up even on stage maybe that they're going to attack him on that. It actually landed really well. I thought he posed the question in the best way he could, basically saying, who do you trust? There are 3 bodies you can trust with this money when it comes to campaigning. You can either trust, the DC consulting class that is existing currently in Washington, D.C., this kind of establishment. You can trust the media advertisers and the media executives like Facebook and the people who just ran a shit show of a debate. Or you can trust the people. And I thought it was very well executed in his way framing it up about some of these inherent mistrusts in our institutions, which I think resonates with a lot of the populist movement currently that realizes there is a corruption problem at hand. But I got to knock him for a couple points. I think one, again, not his fault. It really is a tragedy that keeps happening, but he didn't have enough time to actually be as effective as a winner needs to be. He simply didn't have the opportunity to seize it all. I think the second thing that really retracts from him is I don't think he gave a particularly great answer about charter schools. I think I personally still support charter schools, nonprofit charter schools, as long as they're, ethically run with proper reporting, they're good. But I don't think he actually framed it all that well. He framed it as if there is a dichotomy between the two, and we're just going to pick whatever the good school is, and that could end up being just charter schools. You need to say that there is still a very vital position for public schools. One of the things that public schools are particularly proficient at is actually teaching people who fit that middle part of the bell curve, the actual standardized part of what you're trying to teach. What it doesn't do well is it doesn't help actually provide training for people at the ends of the bell curve. You need more niche, adaptable education to serve these needs, whether it's people with special needs who need an environment that's much more one-on-one. They need an environment that actually has the appropriate resources for them. And currently in our education system, that's not existing. Places where they have the actual facilities specifically designed for that population too, whether it be hearing impaired or the blind as well. You need kind of that adaptability. And it also goes for the other end of the curve, for the people who are like those magnate people, the top of the performing class. Yeah, our education system holds them back. We shouldn't try to just provide the same education to every student. You should be teaching students to their own abilities. And so for those people, you need to give them an environment where they can do much more innovative projects. I really wish Yang could seize the opportunity to really say why this is an appropriate thing, because charter schools do still have a stigma kind of within the party because they are seen as this purely attacking thing on public education. And in some cases, yeah, it is doing that. But the principle of charter schools is not actually bad. It's just currently, like capitalism, as he points out, is focusing on the wrong things. So I think he can really build this comprehensive picture, and I think he didn't seize that moment. I thought his answers on foreign policy were pretty solid. I think it was, a little bit generic, obviously. I don't think it really detailed the philosophy, but I think he actually held his own in terms of saying, we do need to be involved in the world, that we do need someone that simply at the end of the day, we trust the person who's making the decisions. Because I think they were all basically saying, we're all definitely better commander-in-chief than Donald Trump. We can trust pretty much all the people on this stage with, some level of being better actors in the world. Is it going to be all perfect? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. There was a lot more uniting this time around in the first two debates, probably because these were the more serious contenders.
Yeah, exactly. And so that leaves number one, and that leaves Warren. I personally, there were certain lines that to me, I'm just like, this is going to get picked apart from like Donald Trump, like her talking about like her with her dollies. Like, I'm just envisioning that man, the savage that he is, just attacking her, and like it landing over and over. Like she is just not, like, she's corny, like just in her personality. Like, but what she did do that was really successful is I think she gave the most well-poised, thought out, and consistently progressive vision on a number of topics, because she also was given the opportunities to do so. She had the most speaking time of anyone overall. No, that's not true. Biden had the most. She was number 2. So what that says to me is that she could land her points on how we get out of Afghanistan. I think, do you trust her? Maybe, maybe not. But her answer, for most people who aren't political junkies, I think came off very strong, that she is anti-war, which I don't think is something that most people would say is her calling card, and I think she got to establish that a little bit more tonight. I think she did a reasonable job defending public education against Andrew Yang, even though I still was a little angry at it because it was an unseized moment by him. I think she capitalized on it, given the crowd's affinity for public education. Her coming off as a public school teacher right after came off pretty strong. I also think her being able to answer most of what the criticism from Joe Biden was at times was pretty good, in that it was her getting to respond to the errors of Joe Biden rather than the points that Biden makes that are like debatable. Bernie got those ones. So I think Warren got to capitalize more on the opportunities of mistake. And I think she got the most chance to really portray good things overall. Like Yang said, I think some really great things, but I don't think he got all the opportunities he needed. And I don't think that opening statement was just enough to get him there, even though if you go by metrics of like Twitter growth or social media growth in general, as well as Google search, he won in those regards. But I think if we're looking at how this ends up playing out, I think the media is going to also get the angle of attacking Yang, and I don't know if that's going to end up benefiting him. I'm still a little uncertain in terms of that regard, and so I knocked him down just a little bit. Like, I got really thrilled watching it the first time. The delivery was good, but then I'm watching this kind of reaction now, and I'm like, this is going to be difficult to address, like, long term potentially.
You know what's interesting about that? Your rankings are actually, it's like night and day compared to the New York Times. Not just yours, mine too, by the way.
I don't blame them. They had garbage analysis.
They put Harris in second. How the hell do you put Harris in second? I'll get to my rankings in a little bit.
Didn't they have like Joe at the top?
No, Joe was in the middle pack. He was 5th.
Still.
Yeah, I actually have that here. Warren was first, 7.5. Harris second, 6.2. They must be into the drunk ant or something. I don't know. They probably wanted.
who like Warren do tend to like Kamala and vice versa. I don't care what people tell you that it's Bernie and Warren. No, it's Kamala and Warren, because you know why? That same Hillary group that says we got to put a woman in the White House.
Yeah, but the ideologies are a little bit different. Booker 6.1.
Okay.
Buttigieg 6.0. O'Rourke 6.0. Biden 5.9. Did they not see the first 15 minutes of that debate?
Like, come on. Biden did terrible. Like, how did anyone think the record player comments, the dentures coming out, the perception on stage that he was getting called out by Julian correctly? Because the reaction seemed like that.
5.9, yeah.
5.9. Wow, okay.
5.9. Oh, it gets better. Sanders 5.7. Now I know his voice was hoarse, but that is harsh to put him below Biden.
Yeah.
Klobuchar 5.2, Castro 4.6, and Yang 3.4.
Yeah, that's the most egregious of it all.
No, I smell bias on that one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to my rankings now, and I will tell you this. I did my rankings. I know I put my kind of grades up, but I've had to adjust them a little bit after looking at vote consideration changes and net favorability changes on 538. I'm gonna talk about how I got those. So they have two graphs on how the third debate that they did, right? And the first one involves vote consideration, and all that is just where they were, how many % of people will vote for that candidate before, to how much that they will vote now. And basically, the formula is now minus before.
Makes sense.
Yeah, not too hard, right? So vote consideration change there. And then the net favorability change, which basically will take the net favorability minus unfavorability now after the debate and subtract it by the net favorability of the debate before the debate, I should say. And I came up with a number there as well. And I'll get to those numbers in a little bit. But I'm going to get started here with number 10.
Hey, I framed myself as the more Nate Silver person before. I think you got that on hand right now.
I told you. I told you I'm a numbers guy. I have told everyone on the podcast I'm a numbers guy through and through.
Oh well, I'm looking forward to hearing where the data lands.
Okay, so I'll let you take a choice. You want to hear my rankings first or the 538 data?
Let's hear the data first.
Okay, 538 data. So I will start with vote consideration change. Big winner, Warren, with a plus 3.6% consideration change.
Okay.
Second place, Pete Buttigieg, 2.4%. We have a tie at third, Cory Booker and Andrew Yang at a 1.7% net change. That's positive, by the way. So that means that
I'm doing pretty good right now, except for Buttigieg.
Yeah, Klobuchar 1.5 change. That means that, by the way, for those, that's a positive change. That means 1.5% more candidates voted for her or want to vote, are considering voting for her than they did before the debate. Beto O'Rourke, this was a shocker. Beto O'Rourke with a plus 0.5.
Okay.
That was interesting. And then that was the end of the positives. And now to the negatives. Castro with a negative 0.7. So 0.7% of voters less considered him after the debate than before. Joe Biden at 8th with a negative 0.8. Bernie Sanders, negative 1.3. And the big loser, Kamala Harris, at a negative 2.2. Because, you know
I feel pretty good about my rankings now. That doesn't do too badly. I think my only huge misses was Klobuchar and Buttigieg.
Yeah, which I think part of that is because for Klobuchar's case, and I will get to my rankings in a little bit regarding her. I think in Klobuchar's case, this was sort of her coming out party. Like she actually was significant this time. Where
she got the time to speak. She got the time to speak, and beforehand on all those other stages, she was just completely ignored. So yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Now to the net favorability changes. So this is just their favorable, unfavorable rating. And when I get down to number 7, I will let you know a very interesting fact about number 7. But number 1, Beto O'Rourke with a positive 8.6 favorability change.
Okay.
That was actually a bit of a shocker to me. Well, I guess it can't be too much of a shocker considering that, this was his home state. He had home court advantage.
Yeah.
So, and
the
plus
multiple
shootings.
compliments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the El Paso comments, I can see that. Warren in second with a positive 7.5 net favorability change. Amy Klobuchar with a positive 5.8 net favorability change at number 3. Pete Buttigieg positive 5.5. Cory Booker also positive 5.5. Kamala Harris with a positive 3.8 net favorability change. Still one of the most unfavorable candidates right now in the race. Andrew Yang in 7th with a positive 2.6. Now, here's something that's really interesting about Andrew Yang. His was very polarizing. As I said, he's going to be a very polarizing candidate. He got the second highest increase in favorability and the second highest increase in unfavorability of the night.
That makes sense to me. I think people are going to be very, very split on that opening statement, and I don't think many people are going to remember anything else from him on that debate stage. Maybe the human capital statement as well.
Yeah.
Him saying that we need to be the beacon for the world because it's smart for America, but yeah, that's going to be polarizing.
Yeah, the giveaway pretty much. That was the oh, there's thunder there. Told you I'm in the Thunder Plains. Anyway, that was all the positives. Biden with a negative 0.2 net favorability change. Bernie Sanders with a negative 0.3 net favorability change. So they're about the same. And I'm going to be honest with you, with 8 and 9, that's kind of expected. I mean, everyone kind of already knows them as it is. It would be very hard for them to really get a positive out of this. So just that they kind of broke even can be sort of a victory for those two because they are a big two.
Yeah.
They're like the two most well-known candidates in this. So, and there really wasn't much room to grow for either one of them. But the biggest loser by far, Julian Castro. What do you think his net favorability rating was?
Oh, I don't know. -2?
Lower.
Wow. What was it?
-6.8.
Wow. Wow.
He probably could have done better if he just dropped his pants and pissed on some cornflakes.
I'm like really trying to think that one through. I guess it's more like the centrist crowd, like not happy with him attacking.
I think it might be part of that, and I think that they probably, I don't know where they got the polls. I think they got the polls from random people. So yeah, it probably was that. I'm not sure. He was very aggressive for sure.
He was, yeah,
extremely aggressive.
Honestly, I feel good now with my assessment. Like I was a little nervous, like given that I still have like affinity and people I know within like the Bernie Sanders camp that I was being unfair to him, but like nah, he really didn't come off all that great.
Well, now you can take it from a political moderate. I'm going to give my rankings now.
Yeah.
And I think you'll be really happy with this. So, at number 10, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Oh, there goes my speakers there. At number 10, Joe Biden. Well, I gave him an F. Okay. I think I'm going to keep it as an F.
I agree.
Last Joe got wrecked, especially in like the first 30 minutes. The New York Times, I told Emma to quit giving the New York Times staff her stash. All right? Because they must have been high while writing this.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
Really? No, they must have been high on power, high on elitism, something. I don't know.
Emma, if you are listening to this, quit giving them your stash. All right, number 9, Kamala Harris, the drunk aunt who had taken about 5 cocktails before she started the debate. The only memorable thing I can think of that she said was, when I think of Donald Trump on trade, I think of the Wizard of Oz, and you pull back behind the curtain, and it's a little guy, and it's a small dude. And my first thought is, oh boy, they're going to have to change the TV rating on this debate. She was awkward, and she acted drunk. Trump bad. And don't worry, Kamala Harris, you'll soon have a debating partner come October. His name is Tom Steyer. and he will join you in the Trump bad parade.
I mean, that's how he got onto the stage. Fundraising off merch to just say Trump bad.
Right. Number 8, Pete Buttigieg. I really am not big on the positive. I felt like it was mostly because everyone else had such great moments, and Pete only had one really good moment, and that was about it. Number 7, and I know this will be controversial, Beto O'Rourke. I'm sorry. I am not a fan of taking advantage of a shooting in order to bump yourself up in the polls. I'm not a fan of that at all. And actually, I probably would have put him 8th. But when I thought Pete Buttigieg, I had a completely blank mind when I made the grades.
Do you really think he's using it? Like, he wasn't the one to compliment himself. Like, I don't know. I don't think he was using it.
And even the audience I was talking with at the watch party was saying they did not like how Beto was taking advantage of a shooting.
Okay, that's fair.
So yeah, so that's why I put him at.
There being potentially mixed reactions on it.
Yeah, so I put him at 7th for that reason. 6th, I had Julian Castro, and part of that is because he was a little bit aggressive, but I felt like he had a lot of good points early on and just kind of disappeared into the background in the end.
Yeah.
5th, and this is actually a big drop from what I originally had placed down on her, and that is Amy Klobuchar. And it's because a lot of those flubs and a lot of those comments that you said are just kind of like, so cliche. That kind of just rubbed me the wrong way. However, I will give her quite a few positives. This was her coming out party.
Yeah.
This was definitely her coming out party, and I could see her climbing back up to 8th and surpassing Beto, who lost in a TKO to relevance in this debate. And number 4, I'm going to put down Bernie Sanders for the same reasons that you had said, pretty much. You know, he could have done a lot better. He's always a very strong debater. He really is. And even when he's not 100%, he still did a pretty decent job last night.
Yeah. Like, if you're not one of those people who are like super style sensitive, I think he actually did solid.
Yeah. 3rd, I'm going to put down Andrew Yang. I actually had him much, much lower on my list on my first watch. But after getting a bit of a feel of the second watch, I can tell it was probably just the frustration of the football game that was in the background. Oh yeah, the football game was playing in the background in the tavern, and a guy doing trivia night. So we couldn't hear the debate while he was doing trivia night. Again, DNC incompetence. And it's not like I'm in Montana or something. It's South Carolina. So yeah, I have Yang there. Basically, I still think his opening statement was really awkward. And when I felt like it was really awkward actually during the watch party, and it didn't really respond well even with his own crew. I watched it the second time around, and I can see the approach that he was going at, so I kind of gave him more of a positive feedback for that. But it still kind of came off awkward, and I think it was Klobuchar that was laughing, either Klobuchar or Harris. But one of those two.
It was Kamala. She actually had an interview in which she responded to why she was laughing.
Yeah.
And she actually was completely complimentary of Andrew Yang in her response.
She was drunk. I'm sorry. She was drunk. Her constant laughing and all that, she was drunk. If she was not drunk, she was at least tipsy.
Did she maybe like come after like one shot before coming on stage?
I have no idea, but she was not. Okay, the first debate, Kamala Harris came out looking presidential. She looked like the closest thing we had to the president of the United States. I really thought for sure she was going to pass by.
Very professional. I'll give her. Yeah, debates in MSNBC.
Yeah. This debate, she came off looking like a drunk aunt who just had 5 cocktails and said, "Let's do this. Fuck it, we're going live. We're going live."
Yeah. No,
that constant laughing, and she would laugh at every little thing, or she would just kind of butt into every little response that possible. Like when in the beginning, Yang's first response that they were going to give him on healthcare, I thought it was going to turn into a political remake of Battle Royale up in there. Between Pete and Kamala and Castro, it was not pretty. But regarding so with Yang, he had that, and the charter schools thing. Now, I think that there should be some reform with charter schools. I don't think they should be taken away completely. they need to treat them more like public schools and not just like we're going to put all the money into these schools and screw everything else. I feel like the disparities there are really bad. They need to allow more minorities into these charter schools as well. But other than that, I think that he made, the pro good schools comment. I don't know why people on the far left did not like that comment from him. And I do agree with Warren more on allowing like I said, keep public schools money in public schools. Absolutely. I 100% agree with her on that over Yang. Which, by the way, Warren's number one. I mean, no surprise here. But I feel like with Andrew Yang, his thoughts on charter schools, he also didn't answer that question. He dodged the question regarding his quote, and I was not a fan of that either. Other than that, he did a great job. He did a really solid job. I think a lot of people really underestimate just how well Andrew Yang takes advantage of what little time that he gets. Yes, he gets the least speaking time, but he really makes every second count. Second for second, there is no one better on the debate stage than Andrew Yang.
See, one thing I'd be curious about is whether or not him having this time is actually like a good thing. Because like giving you just the taste is like, oh, maybe I'll look up more. Like when you have them go on for a while, you end up putting your foot in your mouth at some point. When you're having these constant exchanges where you're essentially attacking one another, because that's how apparently you get time on the debate stage, you end up both being soured a little bit from a lack of unity on the party and sometimes attacking things that aren't super potentially important. I think in all three debates, he has not had a single attack exchange, like in any of them. And so I think that definitely is an interesting thing. Like I think I would actually debate that with a lot of people, whether it's a net positive or not.
I think Yang is more of a traditional debate guy. You don't really like make personal or any seriously aggressive attacks on your opponent. And we've gotten a lot rougher over the years, I should say. Mm-hmm. Definitely in the last 8 years within our own party. Now, it's a different story if it's different parties going at each other, but within our own party, it's gotten really rowdy in these last couple election cycles. And I think Yang is kind of being a little bit more traditional in that sense and just kind of getting his word out there and trying to explain who he is. He also is a lot better with long form debate.
Oh yeah.
He's not into like this one. He had the potential to be a little bit better, but he should have done a little better than the CNN debate because he had more time. I do think that come the fourth debate, he will have with a little bit, I'm assuming a lot more time per response that he'll be able to come out and show his side because the more he talks, the more people like him.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that statement. We saw the polling that you cited show that not everyone, but a lot of people will say, yeah, I really like that. Like, I think it's kind of that he is polarizing. I think that's the really simplest form. And it's really weird that he's kind of polarizing, given that the whole approach really is to try and find unity between these different camps around common solution.
Yeah,
kind of interesting in my feelings.
Yeah, and also 2 Booker and 1 Warren for basically the reasons that you had said. I gave Warren. I moved Warren up to an A-, and I put Booker as a B+. So I know that it was a little bit it's a little bit more rearranging that I did in the top 5 compared to what I had on Twitter. But I also put the net favorability ratings into account, and like I said, the numbers don't lie. Elizabeth Warren seems to be the big winner of the night. Whatever she did, she resonated very well. It did not seem like it at the watch party because a couple people just did not like, especially on Twitter, a couple people just did not like the way that Warren spoke. Mm-hmm. They felt like that she's speaking like she's a principal or something. I think she has that kind of teacher vibe to her. And the only other person I think that even has close to that kind of a vibe is Andrew Yang. So
yeah, it makes you feel like you're actually learning something. And I think That's
Right.
kind of also partially why he's polarizing, is because a lot of these people are talking in terms that a lot of Democrats are very familiar with. Like, you have your different flavors, sure. You'll have your moderates who don't want to go necessarily as far on certain things. But
Right.
he has a completely different way about just talking about these issues that is just outside of the normal mainstream Democratic conversation. And I think it's not aligned in like vision in terms of being progressive and upholding certain values, but it's a framing that is a lot more trying to appeal to your mind than your heart. It's trying to appeal to your, this is common sense. It's almost economically beneficial in all ways. Having a non-corrupt system and having a prosperous economy for literally all people, I know it's a cliche, but like a rising tide, a trickle-up economy, it's important to talk about those things in economic terms. And I think people are not used to actually having to, as he says, think harder. And so I think that's a very refreshing thing to have in a candidate, is really being an independent thinker who has a different way of making the American people digest these very complicated subjects.
All right. So final standings going into the end of this, at the end of September. So by the end of September, what do you think the standings are going to look like?
Okay, so this is now, are we saying by polling or?
By polling, yes.
Okay, by polling, okay.
Yeah. But RCP averages, what do you think is going to happen?
Okay, by the end of this month, I'm going to say it's going to be still neck and neck, with Warren now finally just edging over Biden. I'm going to say Bernie Sanders is going to just stay where he currently is. I know your polling has said that he may go down a little bit. I actually think he's just going to stay put. I expect that Andrew Yang is going to rise into the, I'm not going to go bold yet because you only gave me until the end of September. I'll say fifth, not fourth. I don't think he'll pass Kamala yet. But I think he will pass Pete Buttigieg finally. I think you'll then, as I was saying, Kamala's still at that 4 slot. Then you'll have Pete Buttigieg at that 6 slot. I think after that, it's going to still be Beto. Beto is going to end up again. I'm debating if he'll jump Buttigieg, but I'm going to say probably not. Beto will be after him. And then who do we got after that in polling? Is it Booker? I think Booker is probably going to be next after that. And then we have, do we want to go Klobuchar or Castro? I'm going to say Klobuchar. I think as we're saying, some of this like after debate stuff, when the actual commentary has been analyzed, is going to backfire on him, especially when a lot of the people who would be in his base are those people who are actually tuning into like corporate news and
Right.
are currently kind of picking that apart because they do want to defend Joe Biden, and because he was technically actually wrong during the debate. So I think I'll go Klobuchar over him. And then I know I'm now blanking on some of the people that were on their stage, so that's not good for them.
So you got left O'Rourke and
I
Castro, and then if you want to take something from the pile that didn't show up, Steyer, Gabbard.
Did I miss one? I think I missed one. I must.
O'Rourke,
Real Clear Politics.
Castro.
No, I got to be the one doing something live.
Yeah, O'Rourke and Castro.
I guess I named them all. Okay. So my memory wasn't bad. My memory is bad. So then I think actually Tulsi Gabbard has a chance, I think, probably to leap Castro. She already does in Real Clear Politics. She also is over Klobuchar. Maybe I got to revise that. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to keep it where it is. I think the only change is that Warren is going to eventually jump Joe Biden and that Yang is going to jump Buttigieg. That's That's really it. Actually, and no, that's it. That's it.
All right, I got to go bold. Yeah, I got to go bold, man.
Okay.
I'm going to follow 538 to a T here. Ready? Okay, bold prediction. Number 1, Joe Biden.
Oh, I mean, honestly, it's the safe pick.
Joe Biden, number 1. I'm going to go with him. Elizabeth Warren, number 2. I think that 10-point lead that he has is going to shrink to about 5 or 6 against Warren. But I think Warren will now be a solid number 2. Number 3 is going to be Bernie Sanders. All right, now I'm going to get real bold. Number 4, Pete Buttigieg.
Ooh.
A very distant 4th. I'm talking like he's going to be still mid-single digits and kind of just maybe getting up there back to 7-8%, but he's going to remain 4th to me. 5th, Andrew Yang.
Wow. Real bold now.
5th, I think, okay. Here's what I'm going to say regarding his giveaway. It's going to help him in the polls, but I think it's going to hurt him in the nomination. And I say that because he's going to make himself more polarizing. And that is going to be a problem, say, if he does get to the top tier, right? That he will have, that he needs to get 51% of delegates. It's going to be really hard for him to get 51% of delegates when the primary is proportional.
That's true.
So he's kind of hurt his nomination chances, but I think it will make him rise in the polls. Maybe he could recover out of that and zig where he zigs and zag where he zags to get to a point where he can get back into the top, where he can get into the top 3. But I mean, right now, yeah, he kind of sacrificed long-term success for a little bit of short-term gain to me. Number 6, Kamala Harris. Now these 3 are going to, I feel like these 3 are going to be fighting each other over the 4th place spot. I think they will be within 1 or 2 points of each other.
I think that's very fair.
Yeah,
I don't think I see the full drop for Kamala, but I think it's going to be very close between.
Yeah, maybe because if I go by 538, Buttigieg will be in his own tier, and then Yang and Harris kind of battle for 5th. Is going to be kind of what I'd be seeing if I'm going by vote consideration changes here. Booker a solid 7th, and he will actually be kind of in that blob with Yang and Harris in a way. 8th, Amy Klobuchar. I think that this was definitely her coming out party, and I can see her getting a few more 2s now in at least official polls anyway.
Yeah.
9th, Beto O'Rourke. I think he still had – this guy was like 5th before.
Wow. You had Amy jump Beto.
I think Amy's going to jump Beto. And
no way.
And here's something I'm going to throw out here too. I think his marketing campaign might have screwed him out of a Texas Senate run.
Well, yeah.
I think that, okay, here's why. They put, hell yes, we're going to take away your AR-15 on a shirt. You think he's going to run for Texas Senate, a place known for its guns?
That's not shirt good quality, Beto. Like, it's good for a stage, have your moment, but come on.
I thought who moderated this crap was going to be Pat on a shirt. Okay, number 10, Tom Steyer.
Okay.
I think Steyer's gonna jump the field and make it through the poll. No, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna drop him to 11. 10 will be Tulsi Gabbard.
Good drop.
Yeah. I think Tulsi Gabbard is going to hang on to the top 10, even though she will not make the debates, because there is a very angry group of people out there regarding Tulsi. She's not going to win, and I really, really hope that she drops out before Iowa. And the reason why I'm saying that is because she has a lot of – like I said, I'm an Andrew Yang fan. She has a lot of overlap with Andrew Yang supporters. And I would really like to see her drop out so that way Yang will get a bit of a boost.
See, yes, but I think that would end up helping Bernie a lot more. I see a lot of current Tulsi supporters having some sympathy for like Andrew, especially given that he's kind of in this like populist progressive like base where the media is kind of being very unfair to them.
Yeah.
But I think there's been like three big things I've been hearing that makes me think that they're not going to end up being as easily converted as some people currently think. I think one, his media regulation stances, I think, has been concerning for some of them. I think specifically when you look at his policy on media fragmentation, that's been something that they're a little nervous about, given that they already have like lawsuits out against like Google. I don't think they want to see more consolidation necessarily in the media. I think another big thing that they always point to is his record with whistleblowers. I think there needs to be a more well-articulated stance regarding Julian Assange and why Andrew believes that he should be on trial. And I think the third is his foreign policy. I don't think he has as clearly as needed articulated the vision that he wants. So I think that point could definitely be cut away eventually, but I think he does need to do something directly to counter the fears about the media fragmentation as well as his stance on whistleblowers.
I could see that, yeah. I could see that being sort of a help for Bernie. But then again, when you think about it, Tulsi only has what, 1.5%. So I mean, it would help Yang more, but I can see where you say that it would probably benefit Bernie more.
Yeah.
But Bernie needs a lot more than just 1% if he wants to win the election. Well, granted, Yang needs a lot more than 1%.
Yeah, exactly.
So
every percent counts.
Right. But I do think, and this has been one of the things that I think Yang has an advantage over all the other candidates, as long as he continues his momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, he is very broad tent in comparison to the rest of the candidates.
Yeah.
Biden is probably the closest to matching him in that broad tentness. And even then, he kind of locks out the far left. Yang locks out the far left too, but not as badly. With Biden, he locks out economic far left progressives. He locks out social justice far left progressives. He locks out conservatives who despise him because of Obama. He locks out independent conservatives who despise him because of Obama. And with Andrew Yang, the only one of those four that he locks out are the social justice far left. And the other three, economic far left progressives, are about split.
I don't know about the economic far right either. I think there's still a lot of
the
push.
Far right, no. But we're talking like your Kasich conservatives, your Ron Paul conservatives.
Okay, maybe the Ron Pauls, but I don't think the John Kasichs.
I don't know. I think that the Kasich, your Kasich conservatives, your Ron Paul conservatives, those types of conservatives would warm up to the idea of $1,000 a month UBI.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I think I see a little bit more difference between the Kasichs and Ron Pauls of the world.
Okay, well, I get there's a difference. I mean, Kasich is old-time mainstream conservative. Yeah. He's a little bit more, I mean, they're more moderate now, but back in the day, they were definitely like your solid conservative base. Ron Paul was an interesting character altogether.
Oh, yeah.
He is the right-wing libertarian, and like I said, Ron, and this was actually one of the big reasons I'll go to that with conservatives. They like Yang, and Yang was one of two candidates who got 10% or more of Trump voters.
Oh, yeah. Bernie Sanders being the other.
And why do you think that is?
Well, I think they, one, have this anti-media narrative, which I think a lot of Republicans are now buying into as well from Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And two, I think they're willing to challenge the establishment thought of the party too. Like they're very willing to say that there is an establishment Democrat, essentially, that is not caring about working people, and that they are talking about kind of this idea of freedom from these economic strains.
There is that, and I'll add a couple other things to that too. They like that he's honest.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely has a lot more integrity than other candidates out there. Like I said, I'm a moderate. I love Bernie to death. If I felt like he would live forever, I would not mind him converting all of the United States to socialism. I would not mind, because I know he will run it right. but we
So
don't live in a
people
world where we
after
live
are
forever.
real. Yeah.
So, eventually there will be someone more aggressive out there. It's very similar to what I watched in a YouTube video, the difference between Trotsky and Stalin. Now, Trotsky was no angel, but many people believe that if Trotsky was the one that Lenin let succeed instead of Stalin, that the Soviet Union would look very different than they did in retrospect.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think one of the backfires is, as you're kind of pointing out, in Bernie not being able to live forever. Imagine one of like the central tenets to his campaign, a
Right.
full jobs guarantee. What would
Right.
that look like in a Trump America?
But I
What would
think
the
he has something in his
project
head that
we're working
he
on?
gets it though. I mean, he knows what he wants in his head. He's the architect of that.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, I just got to say previously, I'm not comparing Sanders to the Soviet Union by any means.
Yeah.
What I was saying was that when you know that a person is more authentic and you know that a person gets it and understands the purity of his ideas, like Bernie Sanders does, you'd let him run forever with it. He's the kind of guy that I follow to the end of the world for that.
Yeah.
So that's why
he just has an authenticity you can't touch.
Right.
Yang is one of the few people who's actually been able to I'm not going to say come close, to actually touch it.
I would say he touched it. I think he's about the same thing.
No, I'm not being fair. Sanders has at least the track record we can point to. Yang's not there yet, but he's close.
Well, I'm talking about like within this campaign. Now, Sanders has changed a little bit where he's playing to win because this is his last chance and he knows it.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, yeah, I get his policies like you said, but if he dies, someone else has to take over for him.
Exactly.
And that's the problem, is that he's going to be 79 when he's inaugurated. There's no guarantee he's going to last out even his whole term. I don't care how healthy he looks right now.
Yeah, there are just unpredictabilities of life.
Right. And finally, the third thing regarding Sanders is I think back during the Great Recession, he teamed up with Ron Paul to audit the Fed.
Oh, yeah.
And they were, I don't think they were successful in it. But just that they did that team up. The Ron Paul libertarian conservatives remember that.
Oh, yeah. I think you can even look at it a little bit, too, with like the whole Yemen thing, too, when he worked with Mike Lee.
Right.
To try to help us stop the wars, essentially. I think a lot of that libertarian, independent kind of base really likes that fact that he is willing to take on that really war hawkish establishment body.
Right. Exactly. So that's the reason why I see how Trump voters, I should say, have this attraction to your Sanders and Yang types. Whereas someone who's centrist, when they think centrist, they don't think someone like me who's got some very progressive views and some conservative views. They see a smarmy shape changer.
Yeah, a neoliberal is probably the better word we should use more often.
Yeah.
So Joe Biden sometimes I think goes beyond that. He is conservative economically.
He is, yeah. He's definitely on that. So, closing statements.
Closing statements. I get a closing statement, and yet none of the candidates got one.
Oh!
I know, right? So
hopefully we don't have to do this again because, I'm looking at the speaker test right now. And you're not showing up, and I'm going to be like, oh, please don't make us do this tomorrow morning.
Oh, that would be hilarious. So, for the people that do end up hearing this one, hopefully.
Yeah, right.
My closing thoughts are essentially that not much has changed here for most people other than, I'd say, Joe Biden, and I would say Andrew Yang. Really not much changed from that night altogether. Joe Biden continued to show the crash, and I think that'll end up having a trickle-down effect for the whole race.
I hope so, man. I really do.
Although I keep saying this, and I'm going to end up like regretting it each time I do. Like, every sign should show what he did, should show major drops, and yet polling somehow just doesn't do it. Wake up, America. Come on. We can do this. That's basically a line that Joe Biden uses, so maybe it'll work. Okay?
You gotta
So,
drag Glass Joe out of his bed.
so the other one, as you mentioned quite clearly in Andrew Yang, he's become polarized for
Yes.
better and for worse.
Yeah.
I think, given his spot in the race, you also very accurately put it. This is definitely going to be a short-term gain for sure. And now the debatability comes into play of whether or not this is going to hurt him long-term. I think he certainly made it a lot harder for supporters to that need to defend against attacks, because the attacks are going to be much more frequent now.
Yeah.
Even as we were thinking they were frequent already. Gear up. You're going to have to refute that point over and over. Like, get something saved that you always reply. Just know you're going to have to say it over and over and over. Like, that's going to happen. Have something prepared. But I think it's going to help him. It's going to help him in the short term. He is going to rise. And I am excited for that, because I think he is smart enough to turn this potentially precarious long-term vulnerability into potentially just the opportunity that it is short-term. So I hope he can figure out how to do that, because, as I mentioned before, I was really nervous going into the announcement of that surprise from all the hype. But I actually think he relatively landed it, because I don't think any of the things that most people were thinking when they were hyping up the surprise had any chance of being realistic. And this is actually doing some real good. I personally had a heart conversion on the topic of this, when I'm saying, yeah, wait, how else would this money have been used to help him get ahead? Realistically, you're going to be paying either consultants, which we don't want Yang to be listening to, because that really ruins that independent thinking process. You're going to be paying media organizations like ABC, who just ran a shit show of a debate, or the Facebooks of the world, or the Googles of the world, or the Twitters of the world, in which he's trying to take some of that value that is not being earned right now. So by giving it to them, none of that gain goes to the people. Or there's another thing you could do. You could pay more on private jets. You can get to more locations and have more events. But that's not a great environmental impact for you. It's not a good use of money to say, I just need to be just by myself. It doesn't show you that you're part of the common people riding your coach flights, essentially. Or there's the last approach, which is what he took. Take money that we all, as a campaign, have said, we support this idea of just giving people money because that'll help them improve their lives. And let's just do that. He can't right now, as a candidate, legislate. He's not one of those 7 candidates that are senator. And so how does he actually show his programs and put it forth? He has to take a chance. He has to pilot the program. And he's done it beforehand, so he knows how to operate it. And so I think this is going to end up being a great use of the funds to really help some people. I'd love to know what criteria he'll end up using to truly pick the people. If it's truly random, I'm imagining what if some wealthy person ends up getting it? Yeah, that'll happen in the system, but come on, that would look bad.
If Kamala Harris wins.
Yeah, imagine Kamala Harris or one of the candidates somehow was yeah, you know what? I could win this.
I actually think that might be a positive for him.
Yeah, that would be actually really funny. But
it's actually really funny to watch.
I still think, though, it's going to be a good use of funds. I am happy that he is thinking outside the box. And I think he's really showing that everyone else is very conventional. Even Bernie Sanders has become conventional because he's moved the narrative. And so now everyone, although there are distinctions, people who actually look into the policies, what these people are proposing, there's clear differences. The rhetoric, for the most part, outside of these handful of centrists like Biden, Klobuchar, Buttigieg, they're not sounding like the old era of Democrats. They're trying to sound like Bernie Sanders, at least. And that's made Bernie Sanders saying it now seem conventional.
I will say one other thing too. Andrew Yang badly needs a stronger ground campaign.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just putting it on the internet, he will not get any higher than 7%, to me, anyway.
Oh yeah. I mean, hey, anyone who is the active community of Twitter, do realize Twitter is 26% of the population.
Yeah, that too.
Like, we got to be active. If you're active on Twitter, maybe we can take it other places. But let's consider, after we've welcomed all these people from the campaign who signed up for the raffle, essentially, that Andrew has given as a UBI. Okay, we've organized you. You've incorporated into the campaign. Next week, let's do the mobilization aspect. We have this weekend of action call that they put out for this weekend, where it's going to be a competition for the states in seeing who can do the most phone banking. And I think that's something we all need to consider is maybe just maybe, we kind of show like the void of not having us on social media when we've been this really active force that they've had to notice. And that's going to draw attention and double on that. So now that it's drawn attention from media organizations saying, what's up with this radical change in like actual social infrastructure? Now we're actually on the ground, or maybe it's mobile on the ground, talking specifically to voters about why he's a better candidate. I think it's really important that we also can show kind of some individual power, like some of the things that we would do in the case that we did get this freedom dividend. We would hope to actually have more time to spend helping our communities, helping our families. And so I think it'd be a great idea if we can have like humanity first days where like monthly on like, I don't know, pick a day of the week. I'd say maybe like Sunday I would originally go with, but now I'm thinking football again. Don't want to make that mistake. Maybe first Saturdays of every month, we do a theme of a service project. So it could be, you know, helping out senior citizens. It could be food drives. It could be writing Christmas cards to sick kids. It could be a variety of ways where we can all work on a common cause. We can show we're helping our community. We can talk to the people that we're actually helping about Andrew Yang. And if we are smart, we then incorporate that stuff into our social media where we say, we record a video of ourselves helping out in our community. We show a video of us actually, you know, talking to other people about some of Andrew Yang's ideas. Like potentially you just take a video where you say, what would you do with $1,000 a month, essentially? And you just ask 3 people who you're doing your service with. I think that could be a really good way for us to show we're in the community and there is a power in actually not a command saying, you know, everyone go do this specific project, but saying we have common purpose together as individuals, and individually we can still lift up the communities.
Yeah, matter of fact, I'm actually looking at my area for some service projects myself to help out with that. Yeah, I did say that I was going to stay out of the Yang gang, but I feel like, you know, he is the candidate that I support, and I'm going to be heading out to do some service projects with people RL. And one thing that I have learned is the Yang gang RL is very different from the Yang gang online, and I want to get involved more in the ground game, especially since the ground game is where you're still going to win.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we still need to realize the actual user base there. And as much as, fortunately, the voter participation of the youngest generations has increased, it is still not at the level of the oldest generations, and those generations are not online.
Right.
Not at the same level, at least.
Though I will say, I think I was the youngest person at the watch party.
Oh,
Maybe
that's
second
surprising.
youngest. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because a lot of the narrative around the Yang campaign is it is a lot of young people, and that was what I got when I think it was back in what was it, like April or May when I saw Yang when he was in Washington Square Park in New York City. It was definitely a very like young environment. It was primarily like a lot of guys. But I really feel like the campaign, when it's gotten bigger, has really diversified its audience as well.
Well, that's it for this by far the longest episode of the Cynical Centrist podcast.
Oh, I know.
By around double.
Yeah, you told me let's get an hour 30, and given it's me, I'd never keep things short. And
right.
2 hours instead.
Hey, that's perfectly fine. Like I said, when I have a guest on, I just leave the cap off. That's perfectly fine.
Oh, yeah. You ended up doing an episode length like I do on my channel.
Right. And also starting on Tuesday, September 22nd, I'm going to start the Tuesday interview series. I'm not going to be doing them every Tuesday, but every time I have someone open for it, I'm going to do an interview. And first up is apparently a pro-Yang campaign, pro-Yang influencer. I will announce who that is next week. So you will have to listen in next week for that. So, yeah, that being said, thanks for coming in, John.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a good time to be able to talk through this debate. It's going to be really interesting to see how this kind of comes into next week.
Yeah, and if we ever get
kind of initially reacting to the giveaway, but I want to know how things play out a little bit after.
Right, and I will say this: the more I think about that giveaway, the more I think that does turn out to be sort of a positive for him. Although I will say the awkwardness did not help, but I will say overall it was a net positive night for him, and also for most of the candidates as well. A lot of the candidates did really well. And also, if I need someone to substitute for me if I get sick, you're the first one I'm going to call.
I don't know, though. Your audience doesn't necessarily want me, the optimist, in here.
Oh, come on now. Am I really that cynical? Oh, yeah,
no.
I am.
Gotta stay a little bit on brand there.
Right. I got to stay a little bit on brand, right? Okay. Yeah. Where's that hashtag fuck everybody that I had before? What the hell happened to that? Well, I do have another hashtag.
Become more yang-ganged in the sense that we do embrace the more positive and more data and solution-oriented approach to interacting with the world.
Except I talk a lot about the mainstream media, and that's the reason why I'm so cynical.
As we all should have a little bit of it.
Right. All right. So I will see you guys next week. I don't know what the topics are going to be about. Oh, also special thanks to audionautics.com and Pulsar Radio. And I will see you all next week. And remember, if I'm not pissing you off, I'm not doing my job. Bye, everybody.